to the Cardiac Arrhythmias and Obesity Research Lab. I'm Kedar Aras, Assistant Professor in the Department of Physiology and Biophysics in the Jacob School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences at University at Buffalo. For this episode, I wanted to share my perspective on the kinds of questions you can expect at a tenure-track faculty screening interview. Before I list the questions, there are two things you should note. One, given the format of a screening interview, which is typically for 30 minutes, only 15 to 20 minutes will be spent asking questions, which gives them roughly 5 to 6 questions to ask. And for you to prepare maybe 2 or 3 minute answers for each of those questions. So by necessity, you'll need to keep your answers concise, brief, and to the point. So there's a lot of practice and preparation needed to make that happen. Second thing to note, you were selected among hundreds of other applicants and invited for a screening interview, which means they were really impressed by your application. So you have that going for you. So now they're only looking for two things. One, can you articulate your science and talk about yourself in a cool, calm, collected, and confident manner? And second, do you come across as a future matured colleague that they would love working with rather than an entitled jerk? Now, if you can pass those two criteria, you're likely to make it to the next stage. So what kind of questions can you expect? The first question that every screening interview begins with is, tell us about yourself and the kind of research you do. Now, this is a standard question that shouldn't surprise you, and you need to be prepared to answer this question at any time during the entire process of interviewing for tenure-track faculty positions. Second question, tell us about your biggest or the proudest research accomplishment. Now here, you don't necessarily need to share about your amazing research that got published in Science, Cell, or Nature. It could be an accomplishment that you are proud of. The third question they're likely to ask is, how do you envision your research progressing in the next 3 years or 10 years? Now, although the question is about your research vision, what they're asking you is, what is your first R01 proposal likely to look like? Your second R01 proposal likely to look like? Now, obviously, you cannot go into too much details given the time constraints, but if you can talk in terms of generalities about the research questions you're interested in investigating, and it comes across in an articulate manner, that would meet that criteria for being able to communicate your science. The fourth question is about your teaching and mentoring experience that was particularly rewarding for you. Now, this may or may not show up as a question depending upon whether the university is primarily a research university where you're not expected to do any teaching, or in cases where teaching and research will be important components of your tenure process, evaluation process. And the fifth question is every screening interview ends with, and that is, what excites you about the university that you're applying to, or what excites you about the department you're applying to. Now, this is where they expect you to have done your research about the university and the department and the faculty members and their research, so that you can point out at least 1 or 2 faculty members and their research interests and how your research could be a potential bridge for future collaboration opportunities. So to recap, the 5 questions to prepare for includes 1, talk about yourself and your research. 2nd, talk about your biggest research accomplishment. 3, share your 3-year and 10-year research plan and vision. 4, your rewarding mentoring and teaching experience. And last, what excites you about working for the university or the department. Now, this will cover up the first part of the screening interview where they'll ask you questions. The second part, which is the last 5 minutes of the screening interview, will be where you are given an opportunity to ask questions. So what kind of questions should you ask? Well, for that, I hope I see you next time. We'll visit those questions in the next episode. Until then, see you.